Well, I'm here on a Northern Illinois spread, an office of mine, so to speak, today with some patients in the background. We're going to talk today about animal chiropractic, how I got into animal chiropractic, and a couple of my experiences that I've had with it. When I was early out of chiropractic school, I had a receptionist in a rural community in Wisconsin who, with her husband, ran a dairy farm. And I was aware that animals were adjusted regularly. I'd gone to Palmer. Palmer has actually a long history of adjusting animals years ago, or since in the early part of the 1900s. But at any rate, she had a cow, a dairy cow, that had a calf that was a very large calf. Animals, farm animals are so well fed, often a cow will have a calf that's almost too big for the cow. And there's a condition called obturator paralysis, where the obturator nerve is damaged. The cow gives birth, but the cow cannot get up. So the receptionist that I had was aware of animal chiropractic also, and she asked me if I could do anything about this for this cow. So I thought, well, I had not grown up around in a farm or around animals, but I said, oh, I'd give it a try. So I called down to the Quad Cities. There's a lady down there at the time, Sharon Willoughby, who ran an organization called the American Veterinary Chiropractic Association. It's a very good program. When I took it 15 years ago, there were 5 modules, 4 days each, for I think it was about a year long, covering all aspects of horses, dogs, and cats. And it's taught by a team of veterinarians and chiropractors, and it's only available to chiropractors and veterinarians. Very well taught and tested, and now at this point they do have continuing ed to maintain your certification. But at any rate, I called her up. She gave me a little crash course on bovine skeletal structures at the time, and she told me a few things to do because she was well aware of this condition. So I went out and I did what I could. I adjusted this cow on the ground as best as I could. And within, probably 12, 18 hours, the cow got up, which it amazed me, it amazed the owner of the cow, and it amazed the cow probably. But Dr. Willoughby, she had done a very good job just telling me what to do over the phone. So from that inauspicious start, I started to get a little bit more curious about adjusting animals, and I thought I should learn how to do it right, and I took the course. And I started working mostly on horses. I've done a few dogs and cats, more horses than anything. Any vertebrae is adjustable. Many people are surprised that you can adjust an animal, that if there is a need for it. It's often easy to see by the owner of the animal. If the horse gait is off, there are signs and symptoms that are pretty obvious to the owners of the dog, cat, or horse. The interesting thing about working with horses is they are such sensitive animals. They usually can sense that you're on their side. I found out it's kind of wild, really. Take precautions and let the horse get familiar with you. Let them smell you. You walk away around very slowly. Talk slow, move slow. Usually it works out quite fine. There was one particular horse that I adjusted early on that is kind of a good little story. I'll tell this one, then we'll get back to the specifics on adjusting. This was about 4 years ago. I had some patients who had some high-end horses, and they had one particular that was a retired racehorse from the West Coast, and they had trailered it all the way to the Midwest in Northern Illinois, where we are at, and ever since it had arrived, it was not quite right. It wasn't, I think it could veer to the right easier than the left. But at any rate, it had something was out of kilter down in the lower lumbars, is what my best guess was. But it was a very big horse, and I had, oh boy, I don't know, I might have had at least 2 bales. I might have even had 3 bales, a little 3 levels, just to get high enough to get over the top of this horse. And I was able to determine which lumbar vertebrae was the culprit and I tried to lean over because as a wide horse, trying to get my balance on the bales, it was kind of precarious, and I gave it a push, and nothing happened. The horse, put its ears back. I could tell it was a sore spot. I did it a couple more times, a little harder each time, still nothing. And I thought, well, I'm just going to give it all I got. I was going to even sacrifice my balance, just lean into the horse and just give it a good punch. So I did, and the horse, the whole rear end of the horse jumped up. It was really quite startling to myself and the horse, I think, too. But as I pushed down, the rear end of the horse jumped up, and at that moment, that's when I felt the lumbar drop. It had gone posterior, and it was really an impressive adjustment that I had never felt before. And I was trying to get my balance on the bales, and the horse looked back at me, and the horse was just as surprised as I was by that. But and after that, the horse was fine. And I've been out to see the horse a number of times since then, and we're very close. The horse really appreciates it when I come around and check. But what was interesting about that experience is that the life force, the innate intelligence, as we chiropractors refer to it, was definitely at work. I was providing the pressure just at the right spot, and it was just a reflex, because the horse, I think it was a surprise to the horse. It happened so fast. And it was interesting how that happened. I just always thought that was a notable experience for me early on in my chiropractic experience with animals. One question that I get often when I talk about adjusting animals, particularly horses, is the size of the animal. People that have been to chiropractor are familiar with some of the chiropractic adjustments, the side posture moves when you're, kind of getting the patient in awkward positions, and how do you do that to a horse that's so large? And it's not necessary to do that to a horse, because I don't need to be bigger than the horse. I just need to be bigger than the vertebrae that I'm adjusting. And that's where the education comes in, to understand the structure of a horse and the joints of the vertebrae and the angles that you need to push. And allowing the horse's innate to show itself. Because when you're pinching down or working on, you can watch the horse's ears, you can watch the horse's response, and you can usually get a pretty good idea of where the tender spot is. Also, another thing is the protocol for adjusting animals. The laws vary very much from state to state. Any time that I've adjusted a horse, I've always tried to let the veterinarian know and aware of it and get their approval. It's not always required, but it's just good manners, and it builds for a good professional relationship. Innate intelligence is there in all animals, including ourselves, and I think it's an honor to work with animals, and I think that it should be high on the list as options. It's a natural approach, and the animals like it.